The Galactic Confederation's survey ship hovered silently above Earth, its sleek hull reflecting the sun's rays. Inside the observation deck, Ambassador Tahoe of the Etheri species stood motionless, his crystalline eyes focused on the holographic display showing detailed scans of the planet below. Another death world, he sighed, mandibles clicking softly as he studied the readouts. High gravity, extreme weather patterns, and apex predators on every continent. The third such planet we've discovered this cycle. His assistant Ji Woo floated beside him, her translucent appendages rippling with concern as she reviewed the data. Unlike Tahoe's rigid exoskeleton, her species possessed a fluid form that constantly shifted in subtle waves, reflecting her emotional state. The atmospheric composition alone would be toxic to most Confederation species, Ji Woo noted, her voice melodic despite her worry. Should we make contact or classify it as too dangerous? The inhabitants appear to still be fighting among themselves. Tahoe's crystallized eyes shifted through a spectrum of colors before settling on a deep blue. The Council wants to establish relations with all sentient species, he replied, tapping a command into the console. Even these, humans. On the planet below, humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that their civilization had just been categorized and assessed by beings from beyond their solar system. Children played in parks, workers commuted to offices, and scientists peered into telescopes searching for signs of intelligence in the cosmos, ironically missing the very ship that was watching them. 2 cycles later, equivalent to roughly 48 Earth hours, the Confederation's diplomatic envoy descended through Earth's atmosphere. The ship, far smaller than the survey vessel, but still impressive by human standards, followed designated approach vectors to avoid detection by civilian radar systems. Earth's governments had been quietly contacted through secure channels, and only select officials knew of the impending arrival. The landing site had been prepared at the United Nations headquarters in New York. A small delegation of world leaders and scientific experts waited nervously, surrounded by discreet security personnel who struggled to maintain their composure as the alien craft settled onto the landing pad with barely a sound. Ambassador Tahoe emerged first, his 7-foot frame moving with surprising grace despite the higher gravity. His iridescent exoskeleton gleamed under Earth's sun, and his 4 upper limbs remained folded in a formal posture. Behind him came Ji Woo, her translucent body contained within a specialized environmental suit that allowed her to maintain her form in Earth's gravity. The humans stared in wonder, many fighting the urge to step back from these clearly non-human entities. Yet protocols had been established, and Director Hayne Newell of the International Contact Committee stepped forward as designated representative. "We welcome you to Earth," said Director Hayne Newell, extending a hand in greeting. Her voice remained steady despite her racing heart. "And we look forward to learning about the greater galactic community." Tahoe's translator processed her words, and he extended one of his lower limbs in return, careful to mimic the human gesture without alarming them with his upper, more dexterous appendages. "The Galactic Confederation greets Earth and its people," Tahoe responded, his voice emerging from the translator as a pleasant baritone. "We come with peaceful intentions and the offer of cultural exchange." What surprised the alien delegation most was the composure of these humans. Where other species had panicked or displayed aggression upon first contact, these deep-world inhabitants showed remarkable calm. Some even smiled, a gesture that Tahoe's cultural briefing identified as friendly rather than threatening. In the days that followed, the human media exploded with reports of the alien visitors. Some people panicked, religious institutions held emergency sessions, and stock markets fluctuated wildly. But the official response remained measured and diplomatic. Inside the secure conference room established for initial negotiations, Tahoe shared information about the Confederation, an alliance of 117 spacefaring species spanning 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Ji Woo displayed holographic maps showing Earth's position on the galactic fringe, explaining why they had only recently been discovered. What the aliens carefully avoided mentioning was how they truly viewed humans. In Confederation classification, Earth was an extreme death world whose inhabitants had evolved under conditions that would kill most sentient species. The humans' casual resilience to temperature variations, atmospheric pressure, and gravity that would cripple other species was both impressive and mildly disturbing. As the first week of contact concluded, the Confederation extended a formal invitation for a human delegation to visit the nearest Confederation hub station. They were curious to see how these Deathworlders would adapt to space and whether they might eventually become useful members of the galactic community, though few expected much from a species evolved in such harsh conditions. How wrong they would prove to be. 3 Earth years had passed since first contact with the Galactic Confederation. Humans had established a modest embassy aboard the massive Confederation hub station, a spinning wheel-shaped structure that housed representatives from over 100 alien species. The human contingent remained small, just 30 diplomats, scientists, and military observers learning about their place in the wider galaxy. Captain Jung-ho sat in the embassy's common room, reviewing reports from Earth. As head of security for the human delegation, he maintained a daily exercise routine even in the station's lighter gravity. The humans had quickly learned that what the aliens considered normal physical activity barely qualified as a warm-up for Earthborn muscles. The station's lighting suddenly shifted to a pulsing blue, and a low-pitched alert tone echoed through the corridors. Jun-ho looked up sharply. This wasn't a scheduled drill. The door to the embassy slid open with a hiss. Ambassador Taho rushed in, his normally orderly exoskeleton plates flared in distress. The Aetheri diplomat rarely showed emotion, making his current state all the more alarming. "Captain, where is Ambassador Kim?" Taho's mandibles clicked rapidly, the translator struggling to keep his tone even. "In conference room 2 with the science team," Jun-ho replied, rising to his feet. "What's happening?" Before Taho could answer, the emergency sirens grew louder. Several other human staff members emerged from their workstations, looking concerned. "The Drakari Empire has launched a coordinated attack across 16 systems," Taho announced, his upper limbs gesturing in a pattern that the humans had learned signified extreme urgency. 3 outposts have already fallen." The room fell silent. The humans had heard of the Drakari during their cultural briefings, a militaristic species from the Outer Rim that had rejected Confederation membership centuries ago. They had remained largely isolationist, occasionally raiding border systems, but never launching a full-scale war. "How bad is it?" asked Dr. Min, the delegation's chief scientist. "Worse than anything in recent memory," Taho replied. "The Drakari have developed new weapons technology. Our defensive systems are failing against their attack vessels. Captain Jun-ho's military training took over. How can we help?" The question seemed to catch Taho off guard. The Aetheri ambassador hesitated, his crystalline eyes cycling through colors of uncertainty. "Your offer is appreciated, but the Drakari are ruthless warriors who have been fighting interstellar wars for millennia," he finally replied. "This conflict is beyond your current technological capabilities." Jun-ho shared a glance with his second-in-command, Lieutenant Yu. Both understood the unspoken assessment. The Confederation still viewed humans as primitive newcomers from a harsh planet, useful perhaps for their unique biological perspectives, but hardly as military allies. "So are we," Jun-ho replied simply. "In different ways." He stepped closer to the holographic display table at the center of the room and activated it. "Show me where the nearest attack is happening." Taho hesitated, but then transmitted data to the display. A star system labeled Proxima Centauri appeared, Earth's nearest stellar neighbor and site of a small Aetheri research outpost. "That's less than 5 light-years from Earth," Dr. Min noted. "If the Drakari push through there, they'll discover Earth next," Jun-ho finished. He turned to the embassy's communication officer. "Contact Earth Command immediately. Priority Alpha." Over the next 3 days, the Confederation Council debated response strategies, while more systems fell to the Drakari advance. The human delegation observed these sessions with growing frustration. The Confederation species evolved in more stable environments, approached conflict with caution and extensive planning. On Earth, the response was different. When the emergency transmission reached Earth Command, humanity's dormant wartime efficiency awakened. The 7 newly completed interstellar vessels, originally intended for peaceful exploration, were rapidly retrofitted with Earth's most advanced weapon systems. Captain Jun-ho addressed the surprised Confederation Security Council. Earth is deploying a response team to Proxima Centauri. We request only navigational data and Confederation IFF codes to avoid friendly fire incidents. This is unprecedented, protested the Centauri representative. Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel. Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions others miss, Jun-ho responded. 7 Earth battleships launched within days, crews volunteering despite the known dangers. They carried specialized combat teams trained in low-gravity warfare and experimental weapons designed to work in space conditions. Ambassador Taho watched their departure with mixed emotions. "You don't understand what you're facing," he told Jun-ho before the captain boarded his ship. "Neither do they," Jun-ho replied. The Earth fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri 2 weeks later, using jump technology provided by the Confederation. The scene that greeted them was grim. The Aetheri defense fleet hung in ruins, and Drakari boarding vessels surrounded the outpost's main habitat ring. The station's outer defensive line had already fallen, and internal barriers were failing section by section. The Earth vessels emerged from jump space in tight formation, communication systems silent, weapons hot. They arrived just as the Drakari forces broke through the final defensive line, and directly into humanity's first interstellar battle. Fleet Commander Kraz of the Drakari Empire watched through the viewscreen as the Earth vessels approached the Proxima Centauri station. His scaled lips curled into what his species considered a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The newcomers' ships were small and crude compared to Drakari battle cruisers. "What are these?" he asked his second-in-command, pointing a clawed finger at the approaching fleet. "Unknown vessels, Commander. Not matching any Confederation design in our database." Kraz flicked his tail in amusement. "No matter. Deploy the boarding parties. I want that station taken before these new arrivals become a nuisance." On the human flagship Intrepid, Commander Hyun-jae studied the tactical display. The Drakari ships were massive, bristling with weapons that had torn through the Confederation's defenses like paper. But they were also slow. The Earth vessels, smaller and more agile, might have an advantage if used correctly. "All ships, execute Pattern Delta," she ordered. "Target their boarding craft first." The 7 Earth vessels broke formation, accelerating at speeds that made the Drakari tracking system struggle to keep up. Unlike the methodical, predictable patterns of Confederation ships, the human vessels moved erratically, seemingly chaotic, but actually following a carefully choreographed dance of combat. Kraz watched in growing concern as 2 of his boarding ships exploded. "What are they doing? No species flies like that. They'll tear themselves apart with those maneuvers." The humans didn't stop with the boarding craft. Within 20 minutes, they had created a defensive perimeter around the station and deployed their own boarding teams. While the ships engaged the Drakari fleet, Commander Hyun-jae led the ground assault personally. Inside the station, the surviving Aetheri defenders were making their last stand. Section by section, the Drakari warriors had pushed them back, their natural armor and superior strength overwhelming the more fragile Aetheri. Sung Min, an Aetheri security officer, fired desperately as another bulkhead failed. 3 more of his team fell to Drakari blaster fire. The next section contained civilians, researchers, and their families who had no chance against the invaders. Suddenly, the hatch behind the Drakari forces exploded inward. Through the smoke came figures Sung Min had never seen in combat before, humans in powered exosuits. The Drakari commander on the ground, a massive warrior named Frak, turned to face this new threat. He laughed when he saw the human force. These creatures were half the size of his warriors, even in their mechanical suits, with no natural armor or claws. His laughter died when the first squadron of humans charged directly into his elite guard. Commander Hyunja led the assault, her combat exosuit amplifying her already formidable strength. What the humans lacked in natural armor, they made up for with technology and fighting spirit, born from thousands of years of Earth's brutal conflicts. The Drakari, used to enemies who retreated strategically, were unprepared for opponents who charged forward. The humans moved with shocking speed and coordination, adapting instantly to the shifting battlefield conditions. Impossible, gasped Sungmin, watching as the humans fought in parts of the station where atmosphere had vented to near vacuum. They're functioning in toxic atmosphere levels. While Confederation species required specialized environmental protection for different station sections, the humans operated with only basic breathing apparatus. Their death world evolution had made them resistant to radiation levels, temperature variations, and atmospheric conditions that would incapacitate most species. By the second day of fighting, the humans had secured over half the station. The Drakari, accustomed to quick victories, found themselves facing an enemy that wouldn't quit. "They don't stop," reported a Drakari squad leader, nursing a wound from a human combat knife. "We killed 3 of them in Section 8, and they kept fighting with fatal injuries." Kraz studied the casualty reports with disbelief. Where Confederation forces typically required rest cycles every few hours, the humans pushed through for days. Some had been fighting continuously for over 30 hours, taking stimulants to keep going when their bodies should have collapsed from exhaustion. On the 3rd day, the Drakari suffered another shock. The human ships, which had been holding a defensive perimeter, suddenly launched a coordinated attack on the Drakari fleet's command vessel. Using the station's bulk as cover, 3 Earth ships executed a maneuver that Kraz's tacticians had deemed physically impossible, exposing the flagship's vulnerable engine section. The resulting explosion crippled the Drakari flagship. Commander Hyunjae, seeing the enemy command structure falter, led a final push to the station's central hub, where the remaining Drakari forces had established their headquarters. "They're coming through the maintenance shafts," a Drakari officer reported in panic. "Those tunnels are barely half a meter wide." The humans, removing their exosuits, had crawled through conduits that the larger Drakari couldn't access, bypassing their defenses completely. As Hyunjae's team breached the command center, Kraz made the only decision left. The retreat signal went out to all Drakari forces, echoing across the Proxima Centauri system. The station was secure, but more importantly, the galaxy had just witnessed something new. Humanity unleashed among the stars, bringing their death world tenacity to a battlefield that had never seen anything like it. The humans did what? The Confederation Council chamber erupted in disbelief as reports from Proxima Centauri arrived. The circular hall, designed to accommodate representatives of all member species, buzzed with excited and confused conversations. High Counselor Vren of the Centauri rose on his 4 hind legs, towering over the other delegates. His voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, cut through the noise. "Are we to believe that 7 human vessels and fewer than 200 ground troops repelled a Drakari invasion force that our own fleet couldn't stop?" Ambassador Tahoe's crystalline eyes shifted to a pleased blue-green as he confirmed the report. "The station has been secured. Drakari forces have withdrawn from the entire Proxima system. General Yunji, recently arrived from Earth as the new military liaison, stood confidently before the alien delegates. Though smaller than most species present, her straight posture and unwavering gaze commanded respect. Her battle uniform still bore scorch marks from the fight. "We simply utilized tactical advantages you weren't considering," she explained, activating the holographic display to show footage from the battle. "Earth's diverse environments have trained us to adapt quickly. Where you see obstacles, we see opportunities." The display showed humans moving through sections of the station where atmosphere had vented, wearing only minimal protection. Other footage revealed soldiers fighting continuously for over 40 hours without rest cycles. "Impossible," muttered the Volnar representative, his gelatinous form quivering. "No sentient species can endure such conditions." "Deathworlders," whispered someone else, but now the term carried respect rather than dismissal. The council session lasted for hours as the implications became clear. The Drakari Empire, confident in their knowledge of Confederation tactics developed over centuries, had no counter for human unpredictability. For the first time in generations, the Confederation had a military advantage, if they were willing to embrace human methods. In the following months, humans integrated into Confederation forces across 16 systems, where Confederation military doctrine emphasized defensive positions and minimal casualties. Humans brought aggressive tactics and risk calculation that bewildered the Drakari Empire. On the battleship horizon, Lieutenant Dahyun hunched over a workstation with 3 Etheri engineers. The ship's weapon systems lay disassembled around them, components spread across the deck. "If we reroute power from the tertiary systems during firing," Dahyun explained, sketching a diagram, "we can increase beam intensity by 30% for short bursts." "But the safety protocols," began one engineer. "Will need to be bypassed," Dahyun finished. "Yes, it increases the risk of burnout. But in battle, 5 seconds of superior firepower can make the difference between victory and defeat." The Etheri looked at each other uncertainly. Their species valued precision and safety, carefully calculating every variable before making changes. This human approach, rapid innovation with accepted risk, felt dangerous. "Trust me," Dahyun said, sensing their hesitation. "On Earth, we have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When facing extinction, some risk is warranted." 2 systems away, in a training facility on New Centauri, Sergeant Minji circled a group of mixed-species Confederation soldiers. Unlike the uniform precision they were accustomed to, she had them practicing in simulated environments ranging from underwater caverns to high-gravity mountains. "In real combat, you never get perfect conditions," she shouted as they struggled through the heavy gravity zone. "Your enemy won't wait while you adjust your environmental controls." An Etheri soldier named Kai collapsed at the edge of the training area, his exoskeleton plates darkening with exhaustion. Minji knelt beside him, offering a hydration pack specially formulated for his species. "I don't understand," Kai said between labored breaths. "Why do you push us so hard?" "The Drakari have retreated from this sector." "For now," Minji replied. "But they'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for our tactics." Kai studied the human sergeant curiously. "Why do you fight so hard for people you've only just met? Your planet isn't even officially part of the Confederation yet. These aren't your worlds to defend." Minji smiled, helping the Etheri to his feet. "Because that's what humans do. On our death world, we learned long ago that survival often depends on helping each other. The strong protect the vulnerable. It's built into us." The training continued, and gradually, the mixed species unit began to function as a cohesive team. The Etheri brought precision, the Volnar contributed sensory perception beyond human capability, and the humans added adaptability and endurance. Meanwhile, across Confederation space, the strategic landscape shifted. Drakari commanders, once confident in their knowledge of enemy tactics, now faced an unpredictable opponent. Human-inspired hit-and-run attacks targeted supply lines rather than strongholds. Small, fast ships appeared where capital ships couldn't maneuver. In the Drakari High Command, Emperor Krell summoned his generals after a series of defeats, his scaled face contorted with rage as he reviewed the latest battle reports. "These humans," he hissed, claws digging into his throne. "They fight without honor or pattern. We must adapt or fall." Across the strategic display table, a new target appeared. A small blue-green planet on the fringes of Confederation space, Earth. The massive Confederation fleet gathered at the edge of the Drakari system, a collection of vessels from a dozen different member species. At the center flew the Earth flagship Indomitable, its hull bearing the scars of a dozen battles fought over the past year. On the bridge, Admiral Jinho studied the tactical display, showing the formidable Drakari defenses surrounding their homeworld. 3 rings of battle stations protected the planet, each bristling with weapons that had kept the Confederation at bay for generations. Conventional approach would result in 30% fleet losses before we even reached the inner defense ring, reported the Aetheri tactical officer. Jinho nodded, then pointed to a swirling mass of energy at the edge of the display. And what about that? The Aetheri's crystalline eyes flickered with alarm. The burning veil. It's a radiation storm that's orbited their sun for centuries. No ship can survive passage through it. The radiation levels would kill any crew instantly. Jinho smiled. Any Confederation crew, perhaps. Not humans. The plan was met with shock when presented to the Allied commanders. Earth's scientists had developed radiation shielding that could protect human crews, not perfectly, but enough to survive brief exposure. The Drakari, knowing the storm was lethal to all known species, left that approach completely undefended. "This is madness," protested the Zentari commander. "Even with your shielding, the radiation will cause severe damage to your crews." "We're volunteers," said Captain Suyang, who would lead the flanking force. "And we're Deathworlders. Our bodies can handle radiation levels that would kill other species." What she didn't mention was that even with their natural resilience and advanced shielding, the human crews would suffer radiation sickness. Many would later require medical treatment. Some might face long-term health consequences. But when weighed against the millions who would die in a prolonged war, the risk was acceptable. The next day, as the main Confederation fleet engaged the outer defense ring in a conventional battle, 30 human ships slipped away and entered the churning orange clouds of the burning veil. Inside Suyang's ship, warning alarms blared as radiation levels climbed beyond safe parameters. Crew members secured breathing masks as the life support systems began to fail under the radiation's assault. Navigation screens flickered and died, forcing pilots to rely on pre-programmed trajectories and instinct. On the Drakari homeworld, Emperor Krell watched with satisfaction as his forces engaged the Confederation fleet. The battle was proceeding exactly as their simulations had predicted, until a junior officer reported anomalous readings from the burning veil. "Impossible," Krell said dismissively. "Nothing can survive in that storm." Then the human ships emerged from the lethal radiation cloud, systems damaged but crews intact and fighting. They appeared directly behind the inner defense ring, in the one area where the Drakari capital was vulnerable. "They're insane," whispered a Drakari commander as the radiation-bathed human vessels launched their attack. No rational species would sacrifice themselves this way. The unexpected flanking maneuver created chaos in the Drakari defense network. Stations designed to fire outward now had to redirect inward, creating gaps that the main Confederation fleet exploited. Within hours, the defense rings began to crumble. Admiral Jinho coordinated the final assault on the Imperial Palace itself. The massive structure, built into the side of an ancient volcano, had never been breached in the 1,000-year history of the Drakari Empire. Its fall, when it came 3 days later, sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Confederation forces, led by the battle-weary humans, stood in the Emperor's Grand Hall. Many expected the humans to demand harsh terms, or even the complete subjugation of the Drakari, who had caused so much destruction across Confederation space. Instead, Commander Suyang stepped forward with a document in hand. Her face showed the effects of radiation exposure, patches of hair loss and skin discoloration, but her voice remained strong as she addressed Emperor Krell. "The Confederation offers these terms. The Drakari Empire will withdraw from all conquered territories and pay reasonable reparations for damage caused. In exchange, your sovereignty over your homeworld and 3 colony systems will be recognized, and trade routes will be established to benefit both our peoples." Krell's scaled face showed confusion. "You offer peace when you could demand our extinction. After all we have done, "We have seen enough death," Su Yung replied simply. Later, during the formal treaty signing aboard the Confederation flagship, Emperor Krell approached Su Yung privately. The Drakari leader, once feared throughout the galaxy, seemed humbled. "You could have destroyed us," he said, studying the human with newfound respect. "We could have," Su Yung acknowledged, her eyes meeting his without fear. "But Deathworlders understand something about survival. Sometimes strength means knowing when not to use it." 1 year later, representatives from all Confederation worlds gathered on Earth for the first time. The once dismissed Deathworld hosted delegates from 100 species, including newly admitted Drakari observers. In the reformed Galactic Confederation, Earth was no longer classified as merely a dangerous planet of limited interest. It was now known as the cradle of warriors and peacemakers, the unexpected species that had brought a new perspective to the stars. Humans, with their unique blend of ferocity in battle and compassion in victory, had changed the course of galactic history forever. As Ambassador Tahoe remarked to his old friend Captain Junho during the celebration, "Perhaps we should have known. Only a species forged in the crucible of a death world could teach the stars the true meaning of both war and peace."